She is kind of niche or very specific, but for how much utility she brings, you might actually want to consider getting at least one copy of her. So without further ado, let's take a look at her kit and see what she does. So Tove is going to be a burst 1 support. She uses an AR, she has the water element, and she is also from the Missilist line of units. Essentially, Tove is going to be a support / buffer for shotgun teams. In their own words, they say that Tove specializes in strengthening allies wielding shotgun weapons. With her normal attacks, she is going to enhance the attack power of all allies and grant more beneficial effects to all allies using shotgun weapons. And that all sounds really good because we don't really have a burst 1 support whose main job is to increase the DPS for your shotgun teams. So now we are going to take a look at her skills to see exactly what she brings to the table. Her skill 1, Emergency Crafted Bullets, is going to be a passive skill that reloads her magazine, and it's also going to increase your allies' critical damage and max ammo capacity. So how this works is that she has a 5% chance of reloading a certain percent of her magazine whenever she is dealing damage. And whenever she hits that 5% chance, she is also going to increase the max ammo capacity and critical damage for your whole team for 5 seconds, with the max ammo capacity buff being able to stack up to 3 times. The stacks and temporary modification, aka her max ammo increase, is going to be very important because her other abilities are directly connected to this. Her skill 2, Modification Successful, is a passive skill that activates whenever Tove has her temporary modification at maximum stacks. And this is going to increase the critical rate for your whole team and also increase the attack speed for all of your shotgun units. And this is basically going to be permanent as long as you can keep the maximum stacks on her skill 1. The attack speed buff is going to be really good, and I actually brought this up in my most recent video. Well, not that one, but the other video where I talked about character buffs. Getting an attack speed buff is really good, not only because it increases your shotgun team's damage output, but also because it increases your team's burst gauge loading speed. You can hit more shots more often, so your shotgun units are going to generate more energy. On top of that, if you have Pepper on your team as an off-burst healer, or maybe you have a Sparkling Summer, that is going to be fine because even though Pepper and a Sparkling Summer are getting the max ammo increase, a 42.24% attack speed buff is going to be a really good way to counterbalance the ammo increase that would have been slowing down Pepper's healing or a Sparkling Summer's damage output. You can also use Pepper manually, like how you should be using her anyways, so the ammo increase is not really going to affect Pepper all that much. I'm not 100% sure if Anise and Tove is going to be the best combo because Anise is having to shoot 6 more shots to activate her skill 2. But if you have a level 9 burst on Anise, and maybe you even have Privity on your team, then I can see this being a viable combo even if it's not very optimized, simply because of how good the buff is on Tove's burst ability. So her burst, Miracle of Makeshifts, is going to increase your whole team's attack by 2.32% of her own attack, and this is going to stack based on how many stacks you have on her skill 1. Additionally, this is also going to increase your shotgun ally's attack by 24.21% based on the caster's attack. And the same thing with the first buff, it's also going to copy the number of stacks that you have on the temporary modification passive on her skill 1. So overall, there's not really much to say about this one, aside from it's obviously going to be really good. The attack buff for shotgun characters is huge, and the buff lasting for 10 seconds is going to synchronize really well with most shotgun DPS units in the game. One thing though is that before you use her burst, you might want to pause and check to see if you have all 3 stacks on her temporary modification. You might be able to see the number of stacks without having to pause the game and checking the character details, because it's very possible that she might have a stack counter beside her, but regardless of whether she has one or not, always make sure that you pop her burst whenever she has maximum stacks on her skill 1. Moving on, let's actually talk about her potential teams and which characters that I think are the ones that are going to synergize really well with her team compositions. So the first character that you should be looking for is a character with cooldown reduction. For most, if not every single shotgun team, their energy generation is going to be insane. And if you add on the attack speed increase from Tove's second skill, that is going to significantly reduce the downtime for your burst rotations, to the point where having a cooldown reduction character is going to be a must-have. And because Tove is a burst 1 unit, any of the burst 1 options like Glitter and Dorothy are basically out the window. So now you have 2 options, Dala or Helm Aquamarine. Dala is going to be a more flexible option, but if you're up against electric enemies, specifically in single target stages, then Helm is going to be a better option, especially if you have Sugar in your team. When it comes to specific team compositions, I actually have a couple of teams in mind. So the first team is going to be a Sugar Hyper Carry team. She might not be the best shotgun DPS unit right now, but if you have Tove in your team, then I think that Sugar is going to be a significantly better DPS. She already has additional 66% attack speed on her burst, so getting that up to 100% is going to be huge. And then moving on, this next one, this is actually the team that I hope will work really well. The one thing that I'm not sure about is if Dala has good enough cooldown reduction to actually keep up with the fast rotations for this team. Isabel only has a 5-second burst, and the amount of energy generation this team will have is going to be insane because of the attack speed buff from Tove. So hopefully the cooldown reduction is actually enough, because having insane energy generation is going to be useless if the team can't even use their burst immediately after filling up the burst gauge meter. I'm looking forward to actually testing her out, and I really think that Tove is going to be a crucial part of shotgun teams, especially for endgame content. She's not that broken as of now, and I think that she's going to be an S tier or maybe even double S tier character when she gets released. But when we start getting more shotgun DPS, especially ones that actually benefit from getting more ammo increase, then at that point, I can see her being a must-have.